And thanks, Keith, previous speaker. That was really interesting. It's great to see how different the worlds are that we all live in. So I would like to bring a perspective of Spotify, a company that actually doesn't really live in a physical form. We live on the internet. But I think it's interesting nonetheless to see what shaped Spotify, what shaped the music market, and what kind of opportunities we see for the connected home. So my name is Pascal. I drive the hardware partnership business of Spotify, which basically means putting Spotify in all the devices you can touch. So they can be in your home, in your car, in your hand, or on your desk. All the partnerships that we do with companies to bring the music to life in those great devices that these partners make. So today I want to talk about three topics, basically. First of all, I'd like to bring you into my world, which is the music world, which is a big driver for what Spotify has done, what music has done online. Second, a little bit about the impact of what happened in the music world on home devices and on user behavior. And lastly, I want to look at it a little bit positively and see, well, where are the opportunities that I see for further innovation? So first of all, the music world. Where's the music? I think this is a great picture. It shows a bit of classic world and bringing it into the modern world. He's listening to a laptop or to a computer instead of an old gramophone. The music market is something that is extremely important to Spotify, of course. It's the world that we live in, and it's the content that makes Spotify come alive. So I'd first like to take you through a little bit of the music market, and there's one particular year that I'd like to highlight, which is 1999. This is a seminal year in the music market. This is a very well-known slide I wanted to show. There it is. A very well-known slide of global music industry. This is where Spotify lives. So we don't live in a physical format. We live in what you can hear. This is the American music market. It was a great market. It's the boom years are terrific in music. Everybody talks about how it went down. Well, look how it went up. Music is a tremendous business to be in. But around 1999, something happened. And it's probably most of you know what happened. There's a company that lived for 2 years, between 1999 and 2001, and that company was called Napster. Napster was launched in 1999, and it was killed by the music industry 2 years later. But of course, there were other people following on, and that created a decline. The physical format that is on this slide, there's nothing digital here yet. The physical formats just disappeared. As soon as MP3s became so convenient that you could just get them and play them as much as you wanted, the CDs started plummeting. It took 4 years to have an answer from the music industry, and that was iTunes. iTunes started in 2003 in the United States. And it did its best, but it couldn't really overcome the incredible decline. So that's where Spotify lives, and that's where Spotify starts. 2009, that's 1 year after Spotify started in 2008. So this is America. I'd like to bring it quickly closer to home. This is Europe. It's basically the same story. It's slightly less decline, it's slightly later. iTunes started a year later. The decline started maybe 2 years later than 1999, but there was still a big decline in the music market. But as you can see, I split it up as well. There's one color there that's growing and growing and growing, and that's the red color. So the physical market is declining rapidly, but there's a red color that's getting bigger and bigger, and that's the digital market. That is both streaming and downloads. If you take that red part, you see what incredible growth that is showing. It's 50% year over year. So the iTunes music store started in 2004. Spotify started in 2008. But there, of course, Spotify is not the only one. There's many other music services out there as well. So if I split that up in its component parts, you can see the download market growing. It basically doubled over 4 years between 2008 and 2011. But streaming grew sixfold in 5 years. So there's an enormous impact of streaming. And if you look at this in a different format, you see how much streaming is growing. It's slowly eating away downloads, and this is 2012, 2013, the trend continues, and maybe in 2014, streaming will be bigger than downloads for the first time in Europe. So what does that mean? I mean, this is very much an industry perspective. But looking at it from a user perspective, what went on there? So what happened to all these formats? So in the 90s, things started to go to MP3. So especially in 1999. But in the home, that didn't really mean that much. You had Winamp, where you can play your MP3s on your laptop. But how could you get them in the living room? 1999, there was hardly anything to get it in the living room. A company like Squeezebox started in 2001. So in 1999, you couldn't get those MP3 to your living room other than with a cable. There wasn't really anything that followed up in home devices. What you got was these kind of things. I'm not going to tell you which company this is, but I could have taken many, many of these kind of slides. All the audio companies and all the networking companies had these. There was this big box in the middle, the heart of the home, which was a big, big hard disk. And that's where you store all your music. And then you can access it. This company actually shows the internet. So the internet picks up first on these kind of things around 2001. But the internet here is not used to get information into the home. It's to get access to the home from elsewhere. So in 2001, Squeezebox started. In 2002, Sonos started. So there were the first companies that started to gain access to all those MP3s and make them audible in your living room. And then in 2003, you got DLNA. This is a picture from the DLNA networking community. I don't know if you all know that, but DLNA is about media sharing in the home. And as you see, they don't even have the internet. It's all completely confined to, I have my MP3s, I want to play them elsewhere. The internet doesn't exist. And if you want it out of the house, you'll just use one of these, the iPod. And that was a huge success. People wanted it out of the house. That was around 2006. Still 2 years before Spotify started, but something else was also around already in 2001. There's one company that had a lot of foresight, and that's this one. 2001, the first company that created cloud access to music. All the world's music at your fingertips. This was Rhapsody. They started in 2001 with the first access instead of ownership structure. But nothing really happened with that. Until 2006, 2007, it was kind of flat. There were the first indications of something that was going to happen in the music world. But it took one product that made it all different, and that's this product. It sold 500 million units, and although there were a couple of variants, if you take the newest one, it looks exactly the same as the first one. There's one mobile phone, so this is a mobile phone, of course. There's one mobile phone that is heralded, the 1100, the Nokia 1100 is the most sold mobile phone. It's a sensation. It sold half of these, 250 million units of one phone. This is, of course, the iPhone. 500 million iPhones are around right now. It's a staggering number. Or actually, they're not around. Some may be broken, but 500 million were sold. What for me is important here, 2007, this was actually the first computer that had ubiquitous internet access in the home, outside of the home, anywhere. The big, big app on the iPhone when it launched was the web browser. For the first time you had a web browser in your hand, you could access the internet wherever you were. And that created the perfect device for online access, and of course, online access to music. It took a year, 2008, Apple launched App Store. That's really transformative, because suddenly there was this huge innovation going on. And all these apps, they all access the internet, because internet is ubiquitous, it's built in, wherever you are. And that really drove music in the cloud. So what does it give users, music in the cloud? It starts off with the collection. This is a picture from Spotify. I'll talk a little bit about Spotify. I hope you forgive me. But this is the collection. This is very similar to what you have in your house. It's actually kind of a fake collection. It's just a filter of what Spotify offers which is more than 25 million tracks, and all the other music services do the same. It's staggering amounts of music at your fingertips. You can play them within a second. But here you can have what is kind of familiar. This is my collection of music. But the cloud offers so much more. If you have the internet backing it, you can do so much more than just having a limited list of the albums that you like. You can have the infinite search. You can search for any track ever created, and it'll just be there. But that is not even intelligence. If you add the cloud to something, you can do so much more than just this. You can do personalized radio, so the personalization that we already spoke about. What you currently want to listen to, the tracks that you like, we actually have way more than that, more than you know, so we can offer it to you as a radio station. But that's just still quite vanilla for a cloud music company. It gets better with deep recommendations. And this is where the power of the internet really starts coming out, because this brings people together and it brings companies together. So here I see that, for instance, a friend of mine, Alec Wilson, created a playlist called Super Cool Gypsy Jazz. I don't know what gypsy jazz is, but it sounds pretty cool. I might listen to that. And this is something that a friend of mine created. This is something that's so far beyond what is possible if you just see the world as a hard disk with music on it. Bringing it into the cloud creates a huge amount of innovation that is possible. Here you also see a first collaboration. Josie James is a jazz artist that I really like listening to. He's performing. It's a bit of an old screenshot because he's performing on 14th of October, so I missed that concert. But he's performing in Amsterdam, where I live. So that's a first collaboration with a company called Songkick that has a directory of concerts. But sometimes recommendations, letting the cloud do the work for you is not enough. What you also want to have is access to that human touch. So tastemakers, DJs, artists that create playlists for you, that create selections for you. Even in the physical world, the most sold CDs are collection CDs. People want to get tastemakers and other people to tell them what is great music. This is the way that cloud music services do this. And if you even want to dig deeper than that, you can do a following system. Twitter showed a little bit how this works. In cloud music systems, this works as well. This is Metallica. You can go to the page of Metallica, and if you like the drummer of Metallica, Lars Ulrich, you can look at his playlists, and you can play what influenced him. So you can get really, really close to the artists. If you follow that playlist, and Lars puts a new track into the playlist, you actually get a notification on your phone that he has put a new track in there. Don't you want to listen to that? You get a really close connection, not just with your friends, not just with DJs, but also with artists directly. And of course, the internet, the power of the internet is collaborations. Bringing information together, bringing people together, but also bringing companies together. So for Spotify, I just put a couple of on there. I could have filled up a slide with logos, but these are pretty important ones. So for instance, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, you can share music to your friends very easily because they all have access to the same music, right? You don't need to have access to that big database in your house. Guardian, Pitchfork, you can go to those websites and look at CD reviews and listen to the music while you're reading it. Shazam, you can be in a club, you like a track, you recognize the music from what you hear, and you automatically add it to a playlist in Spotify so you can listen to it again at home. All these kind of collaborations, again, that's what the internet brings. That's what the iPhone and the apps world started to bring. And with the BBC here in the UK, we've got an app called Playlister. So they have the music that the DJs play on Radio 1, Radio 4, Radio 6, Radio 2, all of them. They create playlists, and you can listen to them at home to the music that they play on their radio shows. So this is an incredible amount of innovation. Bringing it back to that music world that I spoke about, what did that do? Well, this is the world of Spotify. This is what it did to the music world. This year, Japan doesn't really have music services. US is going up again. It's up at wholesale, which means the record labels are making money. Canada doesn't really have music services. But in Europe, this is a big success story. The music world is going up again. All this innovation is creating growth. Where you saw the line going down incredibly, it's picking up. It's turning the corner. It's going up. So what about the home? Well, home devices just are not there yet. This is a staggering slide to me. I didn't actually, even though this is my world, I didn't know it was as bad as this. So AV receivers are scoring the best, with about 25% of them that are sold today are connected to the internet. Even though you can see the 500 million iPhones are in people's hands and people expect ubiquitous internet to be everywhere. And when you buy a receiver, 1 in 4 has internet. 3 in 4 don't have it. And when you talk about microsystems, I mean, it's not even 15%. People don't listen to CDs anymore, but if you buy a microsystem, you're expected to bring one. That's the only way you can bring music to it. So what happens to the audience? This is a study we did in Sweden amongst our listeners, where we have a lot, of course. 500 Swedish users. We just asked them, like, these are under 25s, what devices do you use to listen to music? And the number one device is the computer. Almost 100% uses their computer to listen to music. And if you look at stereo equipment, over 20%, but via a smartphone. So they connect their smartphone with a cable or something like that to their stereo. The actual stereo equipment is only used less than 20%. Okay, these are under 25s. It might not be the core audience for stereo equipment makers, but this is the world that is coming to you. These people are growing up. They expect everything to be connected. So what are the opportunities? Well, we have a technology called Connect, where we connect devices to the internet to allow devices to play music. From your Spotify app, you can just say, well, I now want to play the same track that I'm currently listening to. I want to listen to it in the living room. And you use your Spotify app as a remote control. And that way you get all that innovation from Spotify directly into your stereo. These are the companies that are currently out there with devices on the market that support this. This is what you can do as devices. You can build Spotify into your device very, very easily. It's a very small software library. You can put it into the silicon. In fact, with Imaginations, we're doing that. They're acquiring for a lot of these companies. We've worked together with the silicon players instead of with the engineers of these companies to make it very scalable. This is what you can do on the physical side, where a lot of innovation is possible. But I think the most innovation is on the other side, where you can work in the internet to create more functionality for users, more mashups for users, a richer environment in which you can listen to music. This is an example of a company, Reebok. They use our APIs to create a fit list app. You just tell it, I want to run for 25 minutes, and I want high intensity, and I like listening to Britney Spears, and it'll create a 25-minute playlist for you with pumped-up tracks. Another example is Blue Note. This is a company with 75 years of jazz history. They help their users go through those 75 years and explain what jazz you should listen to. And this is a company called Emerge. This was done together with General Motors in the United States, where we have a contest. Find the newest hot and trending artist. 10 weeks, every week, one of the 10 drops out, and the only way you can let your artist survive is by listening to them. And at the end, there's a winner who gets a promotion package. Super interactive, great ideas that you can do by making use of the APIs in the cloud that are out there. So not just on the endpoint where you're listening to music, but also at the beginning where all those companies work together to create innovation in the cloud. Because this is where the living room is going to lead. This is a really, really great slide from Nielsen that shows that in the UK, the green bars, 24% of people use a tablet while watching TV several times a day, and only 20% of people never do. This is where we're going to. It's not just an audio system or a TV. It is a user who is using an audio system or a TV together with a phone or a tablet. And while they're listening to music, they're interacting with their tablet to see what they're listening to go into the Blue Note app and finding what's the history of this track, what were the influencers of this artist, and finding the artist profile to see what other playlists this artist has created. I think this is a little bit of insight in the world of Spotify. I hope it doesn't go a bit too far, and I know I speak very, very quickly, but thank you very much for your attention. I hope it was interesting.